What's going on, guys? Good morning. Welcome back to United View. Welcome back to the Morning View. We are back. A couple of days off, but we are back. Illness, flu season, it can't stop us. It can't get in the way of Manchester United news. There's plenty to get into this morning. But first of all, Mina, how are you doing?
Cold.
Yes.
Just cold. Yeah, this is not. It was snowing the other day.
I didn't even know. Honestly, that's how out of it I was. I did not even know it was snowing. It was only because I saw a story in my fever haze. I saw a story from Josh going, "It's snowing outside," and I went, "What? It's snowing outside?" And then I looked outside. Yeah. Oh well, white blankets everywhere. I couldn't believe it. I hate the snow as well.
I hate snow. I hate cold. I hate all of it. So it's not a good morning.
Well, I was going to say, that's the positive vibes we're bringing this morning, guys. It might not be cold and snowing where you are. Let us know where you're watching from around the world. The UV community is well and truly global. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As I mentioned, there is plenty to get into this morning. But before we get into anything, as always, before we get into today's edition of the Morning View, the show is brought to you by, as always, Fresh Ego Kid. Fresh Ego FC will be, for the third year, facilitating the annual Community Giveback for Campaign for Change, to provide an essential hamper and gifts to families from low-income, vulnerable and at-risk families this year. Fresh Ego FC is partnering with Anthony Joshua's charity Clean Herts Community this year, especially with global inflation and fuel poverty. Those families, along with other families, will struggle to provide the basics this Christmas and holiday period. Last year, through donations, Fresh Ego FC was able to give back to 120 families. This year, they expect to be supporting more than 350 families. As always, guys, a really important cause, especially as we get closer and closer to Christmas, and that's we're now in this holiday period. And as always, here's a message from former heavyweight boxing champion of the world, Anthony Joshua, with a bit more information.
What's happening, people? I hope you're good. So the festive period is fast approaching, and what I've come to realize is that a lot of people are actually unsure on how to kind of connect with communities and give back. So what I've done is my organization has teamed up with another organization to do some projects where we're going to be doing community work and spending time in communities and doing some give back projects, right? So we want to raise some funds, we want to get some items because it's going to be rolled out across the whole year as well. This ain't just a one-stop shop. So if you want to get involved, follow the link, follow the Instagram page, the social pages for more info, and your help will be appreciated. We'll be there, I'll be there. It'll be a big community day. Don't worry about that, Leaf. And yeah, we appreciate your support fully, yeah? God bless, be safe, and I'll catch up with you all soon.
As I mentioned, guys, a well-worthy cause. All the information is in the video description. There's a link to a Just Giving page if you just want to find out more information, or if you want to find out how to get involved. All the info is in the video description. Did you notice I pressed the wrong video for a second there? Yeah, but it kind of felt like a weird sort of transition into it as well.
It worked.
It's so smooth. It worked in the end. Yes, we got to talk about the Glazers this morning. I know we have to. But there's some more information when it comes to the sale of Manchester United, the takeover. The Glazers, they want a bidding war, Mina. And they've actually spoken. Avram has spoken as well this morning. So there's a lot to get into. First of all, it was reported by Chris Wheeler from the Daily Mail last night that the Glazers will listen to offers in excess of £5 billion for Manchester United. But they are hoping that a figure could go as high as £9 billion if companies like Apple, Amazon and Google enter the bidding. More on that in just a second. An investment banking firm, the Rain Group, this is according to The Athletic, are aiming for a full sale of Manchester United in the first quarter of 2023 at a price between 6 billion and 7 billion pounds. The point being is a lot of these numbers are being floated around. I don't think anyone actually has a proper number, but the Athletic are reporting that basically they want a sale to be happening in the first quarter of 2023. BBC Sport is reporting last night that nothing substantive is going to likely happen regarding a sale until the festive period is over. Once again, saying it's going to be early 2023 in that first quarter. Now, Avram Glazer, one of the co-owners of Manchester United, has also spoken to The Athletic, stating, quote, "It's not necessarily a sale. It's a process, and we're going forward with the process. So we'll see what happens. That's the update. It is the process, and the process is proceeding. So that's a lot of financialness going on there. First of all, let's start off with that first bit about the possible companies being involved. The Glazers are looking for a £5 billion selling price, but they're hoping it could go up to £9 billion if the companies like Apple, Amazon, and Google enter the bidding. When I heard that I went, oh, those recent reports about Apple being interested or Amazon being interested, it all now makes sense, because where did those reports maybe come from? It maybe came from the people looking to sell the club going, wow, if an Apple wants to come in or an Amazon wants to come in, that's fine. I mean, is there any semblance of realism to those companies actually being interested in buying United?
You know what? Amazon, maybe, simply because they are already involved in football. You know, they have their coverage on Amazon Prime. Apart from that, I couldn't see why any of those three would even want to even buy a football team. Maybe it's new ventures. I'm not too sure. Maybe, you know, they are the owners, and it's actually funny because I've probably heard more from them in the last month than I probably heard in the entire time that they owned the club. Like, I've seen them doing, like, since when do they talk to news outlets?
Never.
They never used to do that before. Suddenly now they really need someone to buy the team, buy the club. They're talking to every possible news outlet. I'm seeing them stopping for reporters in the streets of LA, like, you know, when they get hounded by the press. I'm seeing them stop and talk to them. Normally they used to run off.
Always entering a restaurant and a nice car every single time.
Yeah, all the time. Now suddenly they want to talk. It's funny, anyways. But I feel like maybe they're planting this idea so that people who might actually genuinely be interested in buying the club kind of speed up the process. I would be shocked to see someone like Apple or Google or Amazon buy. I think Apple even came out at one point and said that they love the club, but they had no interest in buying them. I'm pretty sure they did the first time the rumors came out that Apple wanted to buy. But Amazon and Microsoft, I would be shocked. I just think that they're name dropping now.
Yeah, I mean, again, when I saw that, to me, I went, oh, okay, those previous things about, you know, oh, Apple might be interested or Amazon might be interested. I thought, okay, that's where it's come from. It came from the club. It came from the Glazers going, what we're looking for is a company akin to, you know, an Apple or an Amazon to be interested. That's what we're really looking for. Amazon, I said before, I agree with you. Like, it wouldn't be it's still a stretch. It wouldn't be as big of a stretch as Apple or Google, but I still feel like surely there would be some conflict of interest there, because yes, we've seen Amazon want to branch out into sports broadcasting in recent years. They've got Premier League rights. They've got NFL rights as well in the US. I think they do like Thursday night NFL coverage in the US. But if they're a Premier League broadcaster, are they then able to own a Premier League side? Surely there has to be conflict of interest there. And also, from their point of view, is it more profitable to be a broadcaster as opposed to a club owner? I'm not sure. And there's a school of thought when it comes to Amazon. Actually, all of their broadcasting stuff is almost like the world's most expensive advert, because it's all to actually drive interest to their original business, which is selling products and buying Amazon Prime in the first place to deliver their products, which is their fundamentals to their business. As far as Apple and Google, I mean, look, it's exciting because these are ginormous companies. These are some of the biggest companies and most and wealthiest companies in the world. These are companies that we use every day. Myself, I use Apple products every day. I use Google every day. We're on YouTube right now. That's a Google property. And Amazon, again, I probably use it most days. If I'm not purchasing something, I'm watching Prime, or you know what I mean? And most people use it most days. Would that necessarily make them good football club owners? I don't know. You know, I don't think Jeff Bezos or Tim Cook is going to be running Manchester United if they buy the company. You would hope. Are they going to get football people in to run that club? I don't know. I just feel like, again, that's more Glazer driven. But what I do think is really interesting out of this is that there does certainly feel like a want from the Glazers to do this very quickly. Yeah. You know, they're saying first quarter of 2023. We were looking at it previously going, you know, it still might take a bit of time. There's a lot of money involved here. It's a big club, but it would appear that the Glazers are like, no, we're really running out of money. Like, this needs to be done now.
I think the financing debt is getting too much, including the interest. All this debt has come because of them. But I also think that not taking dividends in the first quarter of their financial year is a representation of what their financial year is probably going to look like for Manchester United. I don't think that there's going to be dividends available at all. And they're probably looking at it thinking, okay, well, we ain't going to get dividends. We're probably not going to issue any dividends for the financial year. They're probably going to finish the season with a loss. We didn't make Champions League football. We had a big transfer window, spent 220 million. So they're probably thinking, yeah, now's the time to throw in the towel. But it's funny because none of that is actually their own money that they're using. So I don't know why they're complaining. But one thing I'm glad about is that good riddance, that they want to leave and they want to get rid ASAP. That's one big positive. But I do think, like, with the whole names and everything, I do think they're name dropping for the sake of it, to drive up competition. So if there is, say, a Saudi investment fund that's interested in buying them, or if there is an American business owner that's interested, or a consortium that's interested in buying them, it'll make them react a lot quicker if they hear people like Apple and Amazon and Google are involved. But I don't think that, like come on, why would I just don't see it. Are we going to suddenly be sponsored by, imagine Google buy us and then now we've got a Google logo on our shirt?
Yeah, we've got YouTube Shorts.
It doesn't make sense. Or suddenly we called Amazon United. Amazon buy us and they changed the name to Amazon United. It just don't make any sense. But good riddance in it. I want the Glazers out. I'm tired of actually hearing them talk to the press, because why is it the only time that we hear them talking is when they're so desperate to sell the club, and they're talking about it's not a sell, it's a process. No, it's a sell. It's a sell.
Yeah, and also as well, look, you think you're right. They're trying to make this seem a much more attractive prospect. Look, it's a very attractive prospect because it's a huge brand, a huge company, and it has the potential to make any owner that would be willing to put money into it a lot of money. And I think, to your point, by attaching these big brands and companies to it, Apple are interested, and people go, oh, Apple don't buy companies that aren't small. They go really good stuff. Or Amazon, Google, oh, this might be a really attractive prospect. And I think you're right. That's what they're trying to do. And I remember hearing a story a few weeks ago, and it lines up really what Avram Glazer said there, whereby the board and the Glazers aren't actually officially labeling this as a sale, because the moment they call it a sale, the price goes from here to here. Because suddenly people go, oh, sale, actually, you're looking to sell, or maybe we don't have to give you as much. So when he comes out with that weird phrase of, it's not necessarily a sale, it's a process, we're going forward with the process. He said the word process. Let me count it, actually. 1, 2, 3, 4 times in the space of 4 lines. So it keeps going. It's a process. We're going forward with the process. The process, it's a process. It's proceeding. And that's because he doesn't want to call it a sale, because they're already counting the dollars and the cents, essentially. And they're thinking, how can we get as much money as possible? Because, again, that's why they're looking to sell at the moment, is because the club now is maybe at the apex of the most valuable it's going to be. If they leave it another year, there is a chance, with the way the club's being managed and the financials with how they are at the moment, that it won't be worth 5 billion, 6 billion, 7 billion this time next year. It might be worth significantly less. And during that period of time, the Glazers know they're not going to put any money into the club in terms of the stadium, the training ground, etc. And they know that the club needs it at this point as well now. So, like you said, I'm just kind of sick of hearing them sort of go on about the process at this point. I think the saving grace is that it gets done quickly, and hopefully, as far as maybe it not being completely, signed, sealed, and delivered by, let's say, March of next year, you would feel like the person who is going to buy, or the people that are going to buy the club, would be in place, and we might know who they are. And then sort of the bureaucratic red tape has to get sorted out after that. But that's when I always talk about the summer. Like in recent days, I've been asked about, who do United go for in the summer? What do you think the plans are for the summer, et cetera, et cetera? And I always say, I don't know, because it's really difficult to know what United are going to look like in the summer, because you can't really put, you can't guess.
Yeah, you can't.
Because who knows what we're going to look like in the summer? Who knows what money we're going to have available? Who knows what the ambitions are going to be of these new owners? If we've got ambitious owners, we could do anything in the summer. But if we get people that are similar to the Glazers, who knows what we're going to do?
Yeah, that's why I think the sell is probably the most important thing. I'm glad that they want to get it done by Q1 of next year. And I know that that's not in relation to the club in terms of, they're not doing it because it's best for the club. Obviously, it's best for themselves, but it also is best for the club for it to be solved by like March, because then that gives new owners time to come in, make their plan, whatever their plan will be, and then hit the ground running when it comes to the summer transfer window. You don't want to have someone running around Europe and whatnot like Todd Bowley was in the summer, just doing a madness in the transfer window. Yeah, you don't want someone doing that. So hopefully, like, the sale can get wrapped up. It's funny that they don't call it a sale. It's actually quite funny to me. It's actually quite funny.
You can imagine as soon as anyone brings up the S word, it goes, so what about the sale? Oh, no, process.
Can't say that.
It's a process. It's a process. Ramadan with the super chat says, my guess is the owners are trying to find a bidder in the Middle East. When have our owners followed football? They're in Qatar now for the World Cup. I don't even think it's necessarily that, Ramadan. I think that it's purely money. If the highest bidders happen to be from the Middle East, then they'll probably be the owners of the club. If the highest bidders are people from America, a consortium from America, they'll be the owners of the club. This is purely financially driven. At least with what happened with Chelsea and their takeover, there was a sort of little want from Roman Abramovich, wasn't there, whereby he wanted what was best for the club. He wanted owners that were going to invest. And I think there wasn't a clause put in there or something like that. They had to invest in players or something like that. That was not going to be the case for Manchester United. The Glazers could give a damn about what happens to the club after they sell it or after the process is completed. That I don't think it's so much on location. I think it's all about money for them, to be honest with you. VK with the super chat as well, saying, funny hearing financial analysis stating its value between 3 to 3.25 billion, then football pundits saying 6 to 9 billion. There is no return on investment off a 5 billion and up purchase. No takers 100%. See, that's where I slightly disagree, VK. I think that there is going to be takers for that amount of money because I think the Chelsea takeover themselves proved it. And I think that's partially also as well why the Glazers are so keen to sell, not only because it's driven by finances, but at the same time, there's lots of different, we've spoken about this before, haven't we, Mina, that there's lots of different sort of pressure points that have happened over the last, 2 years that have kind of led the Glazers to making this decision. And one of them was the Chelsea takeover when they went, actually, you know what? There are people out there. There are lots of people that want to get into football ownership that are willing to spend, 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 billion quid to get involved. And United will be no different.
I know this is not related, but Bournemouth just got bought by new owners, and Michael B. Jordan is one of them.
Michael B. Jordan, yeah.
Like, come on, LeBron James. Oh, he's already got investment in Liverpool. He might lose that investment now that they're up for sale.
I don't know.
If there's any sports star in America that wants to buy us.
That'd be typical LeBron. He'd just lie, wouldn't he? Afterwards, he goes, "Never. No, don't."
I've always been a fan.
Man United was my favorite team. It's always been my favorite team. You're like, wait a minute, you were owning at Liverpool, mate. No, it's always been my favorite team.
But I kind of agree in terms of the difference in valuation between how financial analysts are evaluating the club and how pundits and what. I genuinely think when people say 6 to 9 or 7 billion, whatever, I think that's what they think the value of the club is. I don't think they take into account all the different factors that go into financial valuations of any sort of asset, not just a club, but just an asset in general. If you would look at the club, I would say over the last 5 years, or maybe that's being nice, since Alex Ferguson actually left, I would say that it's depreciated in value. I would say the value's gone down. Maybe then it could have been worth 5-6 billion, but I don't think it would. I genuinely think when people say 5, 6, 7 billion now, I think that's what they value it at. But it's true, because when the financial analysts are evaluating it, they are evaluating it. They don't probably not going to say it out loud because they probably don't want to stick a price tag on it. So, which is why the people are being so vague in terms of, this is between this and that. Nobody's saying it's worth 4 billion or like a set valuation. Obviously, they're going to be vague. Especially that's why the Glazers are saying, between 7 to 9 billion, because that's probably what they're hoping to get.
Yeah.
But realistically, they know they might get 6 billion. They could get 5.5 billion, and that wouldn't be I don't think it would, in the eyes of fans, the club will always be worth more than that. No matter how much they're sold for, it would always be worth more than that. But I do think that there is some truth in the element that the way that financial analysts are evaluating the club and the way that pundits and the owners are evaluating the club is quite different, because I'm interested to know in these valuations, when they're saying it's a 7 billion valuation, does that include, the cost of refurbishing the stadium, the cost of a new training ground? Does that include those values? Because if not, then the club is probably worth way less.
Yeah, no, I don't think it does. I don't think it does. I think it's a good point in the sense of even Chelsea's actual valuation was far less to what they got sold for. And I think it almost has to go into what do people get involved in sort of sports franchise ownership for? Because sometimes it's not actually to make money, because it's quite difficult to make a significant amount of money from it, unless you're like the Glazers and you take money out of the club every single year. Some people just buy these clubs because it's a status thing, or they just care about winning. Like the money's not part of it, and again, that goes back to what kind of owners you have, I think, as well. So this is again what's a really interesting one, is so that price points out there of 5, 6, 7 billion, but I don't think it does include the money you're going to have to spend on the stadium. That's a separate thing. That's an extra 2 billion. So you look at it already, like, okay, say you buy it for 5, that's already 7. Then you go, and we need a new training ground, 500 million. Okay, that's already 7.5. And you possibly need to, look at what City are doing. Have you seen their sort of Etihad campus that's basically building or rising up there? They've got the stadium. They've got the sort of academy stadium that's just behind it. They've got that, is it an arena now? Like the Co-op Arena? That's like the whole thing there. And then you look at Old Trafford on the other side of the city and you go, oh dear, like it's miles behind. So you've got to do all that kind of stuff. You've then got to try and make up for a decade of worth of non-investment in United. How do you make that up? Well, you've got to keep throwing money at the issue. Like the project alone is huge in terms of finances. And that's when I was talking about this yesterday. That's where I also go into, it's obviously you've got to throw money at the problem, but at the same time, whoever does purchase the club, they've got to have such a sound strategy, because, United have spent money in the last few years. It's been none of the Glazers' money, but they have spent money on players. And look where that's got us. Richard Arnold burning through cash. Can't point to anything at Carrington of where that money's been properly spent. And whoever does come in and they're spending a lot of money, there's got to be a really sound strategy there, because we're already really far behind. And I wonder, I don't think the Glazers will particularly care about that. I don't think when they're sounding out these bids, they're going to be like, what have you got in plans? What's your plans for Manchester United? They'll be like, how much have you got? And how much can you give me right now? What's the payment plan looking like? So obviously, look, guys, when we get more information, we'll talk about it here on the channel. At the moment, it would appear that the Glazers want a bidding war. And they're name dropping every reputable company under the sun. More to come, I'm sure of it. But the latest news is that opening first quarter of 2023, there might be some movement on this, but don't expect anything in the next couple of weeks, certainly. But speaking of the takeover, I'm sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. Less than 100 likes, go over 400 people watching. We can do more. 150, easy like that, Thanos style. Eric Ten Hag was asked about Manchester United's sale, Mina, and he spoke quite interestingly actually on it. He said, quote, there'll be more investment possible, which is good. We spoke about the culture we want. We spoke about objectives, goals, and the culture. Richard Arnold, confirmed it won't change. It will be even better because more money will become available. He also spoke about, when it comes to the takeover, why it's important, because the competition in the Premier League and investment in the Premier League is much higher than it was 5 to 10 years ago. He said, quote, the competition is much tougher. Newcastle are coming, even West Ham, maybe not now on the table, but they have huge investment. Spurs, definitely. I don't need to talk about City, Liverpool, or Chelsea. It's also about strategy, as I was just talking about, not just money. But it's clear when you don't have the right players and the quality players, you will not be successful and achieve the targets you set. So it's quite interesting what he's saying there, Mina, basically saying, look, yeah, I've spoken to Richard Arnold. He's told me that nothing's going to change in terms of the immediate future, but as far as the Glazers not confirming a sale, Eric Ten Hag basically has done it himself. We're going to be sold and there's going to be more money.
That's literally, and that's what he's taken away from, like, the wholesale, is that there's going to be money available.
Yeah.
So he could get the players that he wants, because he talks about the quality of players and having good quality players. And in order to have that, you have to have investment. So he's basically indirectly just confirmed a sell is happening. It's not a process, it's a sell. Number one. Number two, but he's also confirmed the thing that a lot of fans were quite conscious of, was the fact that money wasn't available. And you look at the past transfer windows that we have. It's funny because I always see like opposition fans saying, oh, how can you guys complain? You spend 200 million in a window. And most of the time, it's not about like what you spend. It's about what you spend it on. It's not about how much you spend. And really and truly, over the last 8-9 transfer windows, I can't really think of one player that's actually been successful. I won't talk about this summer's transfer window because it's only been a few months. But like when you think about it, you think about new ownership coming in for Ten Hag works, because if those owners are coming in with a plan, then, for example, they're coming in with a recruitment strategy. We're going to have a better recruitment strategy. Once we have a better recruitment strategy, we'll have better transfer windows. Once we have better transfer windows, we'll have more opportunities to spend more money in transfer windows because we're succeeding on the pitch with the quality of the players. I think he's realised that with the group of players that he's probably got right now, there's some that just are not, they don't make the cut. And I think that's what he's kind of confirming to us in a way as well. And I think also, one thing, the culture, he talks about the culture. And I think for so long, players coming in, he's talking about, the strategy and the culture. I think for so long, players were coming in, for this. I don't think they were coming for the right reasons. They were probably coming for monetary gains, getting good wages. And I think that, the culture in the club in the past how many years has not been up to standard. I genuinely don't think it's up to standard. And that's someone looking at it from the outside. So I don't know what someone who's seeing it from the inside could even think, or what they see, because from the outside to fans, it looks like the culture's not cutting it, the players are not cutting it, ownership is not cutting it. So Ten Hag has just basically confirmed all three of those in a statement.
Yeah, and also as well, I look back on that Richard Arnold leaked video in the summer of him in the pub, and you think about it, like he said it then. He literally told us then, and whether we didn't have the right context at the time, or we didn't fully understand at the time, but he did say at the time that, yeah, we're aware we need a new stadium. We're aware we need new training ground. I go into Carrington and I say £1 billion spent over the last decade. I can't see it. We're burning through cash. And he said to get to that, to get a new stadium or to get a new training ground or to get whatever, we need outside investment. We need an external investment. Now, I think maybe at the time he meant minority ownership, or he meant like, outside investment to purchase a stake in the club, not the whole club. But what he really was talking about is someone either needs to buy the club or invest a lot of money into the club, because we don't have the money for it. We've got the money to the club, not the owners, but the club has money to sort of go big in this transfer window. They didn't intend on going as big as they did. They did not budget to spend 200 million quid. And now, and we're going to talk about possibly there being no signings in January in just a second, but I think Ten Hag has probably been told, January, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to do business. But he might have been sort of dangled that carrot in front of him by saying it's going to be difficult to do business in January, but we're going to be sold. And look, let's face it, whoever purchases United is going to have a lot of money. And when they do buy us in the summer, irrespective of what happens this season, we're going to go even bigger than we did last year. So that's really, I guess, music to Ten Hag's ears. That's what he's hearing. He's hearing what we're not going to do anything in January. And it's a case of, well, we might, depending on who becomes available and if we can. But next summer, don't you worry, we're going for it. And I think from Ten Hag's perspective, that's what I suppose he would really care about, right? He doesn't care about the politics involved and the upper level stuff at Manchester United or ownership stuff. All he cares about is, are you going to give me the tools to succeed? I'm a football manager. Are you going to give me the resources? Are you going to give me what I need to bring this club back to where it should be? That's what you brought me in for, right? You brought me in to win trophies. You brought me in to try and get you back to where you were a decade ago. I can only do that if you give me money. I can only do that if you give me the right training facilities. I can only do that if we improve all of the facilities around Old Trafford as well. So I guess that's all he really cares about, right? And it would appear that he's fairly happy with that side of it. And as a fan, I suppose that's quite good to hear, is it not?
Yeah, definitely, because you only really hear managers talk about this stuff once they leave the club. Like, we've seen how Rangnick spoke when he left. We've seen how Louis van Gaal spoke when he left. We saw how Mourinho spoke when he left. But I'm interested to know if Ten Hag came in knowing that the Glazers were looking to sell in the future. Because, like, as a new manager, the one thing that you don't want is to come in your first year and there's like it's unstable. The ownership is unstable. There's a change in ownership. There's uncertainty surrounding who's going to be running the club. So and the way that he's speaking, he sounds like he's a happy guy. He sounds like
Yeah.
he's very much for the sale of the club and for new ownership, because like he said, the club needs investment. And back to that point about when Richard Arnold was talking to those fans in the pub, even then, I just felt like he was saying things that people wanted to hear. Like, I genuinely think then he was saying the things that fans wanted to hear, and people really bought into that idea of what he was saying. But it's quite interesting to see how this pans out, like over the next however many months, because yeah, we need new ownership, but it has to be like the right ownership. Is I think what Abramovich done into when he was selling the club in terms of having, clauses worked in the favor of the future of the club. The Glazers don't care about United, so they're not going to be like, oh, if you buy the club, you have to refurbish the stadium, you have to invest in Carrington. They won't care. They won't care. They'll be like, yeah, okay, cool. You guys take the debt. All right, yeah, no problem. Cheers, bye. That's it. But I'm hoping that, hopefully when the new owners come in, it will be the best for not just like the manager, but also like for the club as a whole. Because for so long with this, like United have suffered. They've suffered at the hands of the Glazers. On their, I don't even want to call it like, it's not even a financial hostage situation, because I think it's past that. So Ten Hag has definitely confirmed that the sale's happening, and I do think it's what he wants from the way that he's speaking.
What you would want, to be honest, is when these new owners come in from day one, you'd almost want them to lay out to the fans, and whatever their opening message is, you'd want them to lay out what their plan is for the next 10 years. Oh, we're going to build a new stadium by this date. We're going to submit plans by the end of the year for a new stadium. We're going to have a new training ground by this date. This is going to be our new plans for the training ground. We're committed to spending money. We're committed to the manager, and because it's so important thinking about it. And maybe this is thinking too far ahead, but it's so important for those new owners, because yes, there's going to be, rejoicing these new owners coming in, but at the same time, there's still going to be a lot of skepticism. Make no mistake, we've been burnt for a long, long time, and it's going to take a long time to win over the trust of supporters. So, just thinking a bit ahead, those new owners, whoever they may be, obviously we're happy that they're not the Glazers, but that still won't be enough. There's got to be ambition there, and I know that's scary to think that that's our base level, that we're just happy for ambition. But I think that's important too. Be sure to smash a like on the like button, guys. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. 13 likes away from 100 likes. So if you haven't already, click the like button. Going from that, the positive, I guess, in the future to the more immediate future, and that is January. And we are expecting, or we have spoken recently, Mina, about the hope of getting an attacker in January, a striker, names like Cody Gakpo, Joao Felix, we're going to talk about a little bit later on. But there is a chance, by all accounts, according to Dharma Chef from Sky Sports, there is a significant chance that there are going to be no incomings at Manchester United in January. United are conscious of complying with financial fair play rules. However, United are exploring the loan market in the winter transfer window. Does that surprise you, or is that not that surprising considering how much we spent in the summer and I guess those recent financial results?
Yeah, I'm not surprised, especially with the price tags I'm seeing for some players. I do think like opposition clubs, they will only sell in January if it's for a big fee. And some of the people we've been linked to, I've seen them with some hefty price tags, which I would be shocked to see United spend that. But it's funny because I remember saying a while back that I couldn't see us signing people in January, and I could see like another Igalo happening in terms of a loan, a 6-month loan. And it looks like we could be heading in that direction as well. But it's just, would you be okay with not signing anyone in January with the expectation that we sign quality players for good prices in the summer?
I mean, this is the weird thing, isn't it? Because you do have to take a step back and think bigger picture and go, we've come so far and we've sat through years of this ownership, years of them leeching and bleeding the club, and you go, like, what's one more window? You know what I mean? What's one more window? Just get through it to the end of the season. However, my ideal scenario is that we do get one player in January, and I really do think if we get I don't think we'll get a striker in January. I don't think it's feasible to get the striker we want to in January. I think that striker is a 70 million, 80, even 90 million pound striker. I don't think that's feasible in January. Even in the best times, even if United had a ton of money, I'm not sure how feasible that is. But I do think if we get like a Cody Gakpo-esque player, if we do get that attacker, I'm confident, or I'm positive, that we could finish in the top 4 this season. And then my mindset is, well, if we finish in the top 4 this season, we've got Champions League football next season, and then we've got these new owners that are willing to invest, that do want to spend and do have ambition, then who knows what we'll do in the summer? We could have a really good summer, and then who knows what next season could be. But if it's not possible, and it's because of these, these new owners and FFP, then like I said, what's one more window? I don't know. But I do feel like it is possible to get someone in January. Who that person may be, I'm not sure. Does it need to be better than a Gallo? Yes, it does. But I do feel like even if it's a loan, I feel like we could get a better loan than a Gallo in January. What say you?
I don't know. I don't know if we can. The thing is, finding players on who are we gonna get on loan? Vincent Abubakar from Al Nassr, who scored.
The World Cup's changed things, hasn't it? That's the thing.
Yeah,
the World Cup has changed a lot of things.
Having the World Cup mid-season, this is one of the downfall. Well, there's quite a few negatives of it, but one of the negatives is that inflation on players is just at a high. So you go into the January window, and even if you want to get anybody on loan, if they've played at the World Cup and they've scored or assisted, then there's a couple of millions added to that price tag. And you're right, I don't see us getting a striker. I would, like I said, I would be shocked if we got Gakpo, for example, for 70-80 million. I could see us maybe getting a right back, and that's a big maybe. I've seen that we've been linked to, obviously, Frimpong. We've been linked to Dumfries. We've been linked again to Gusto. So it'll be interesting to see. But would I be shocked that we didn't buy anyone in the window? No, I wouldn't be shocked, because I've been saying that I would actually be shocked if I saw us even buying 1 or 2 people. I do think maybe one loan could happen. Who that is on what position that is, not too sure, because we need a lot of positions covered. But talking about, for example, goalkeepers, I listened to De Gea's recent interview with Manchester United. It's like a 50-minute long podcast on the Manchester United podcast. He's not going anywhere. This guy is staying at the club.
No,
he's not. He's not going.
Tell
anywhere.
that to Marcel. Tell that to Marcel.
The way that he was speaking, I think he's gonna take a pay cut. He's probably gonna be playing. He's okay with probably playing, and then in the future becoming backup option. He's basically said that he wants to finish out his career at Manchester United. That's basically, indirectly, that's what I took from the interview and the way that he was speaking. So do I see us going for a goalkeeper? No, I don't see us going for the goalkeeper for a goalkeeper in January. So I wouldn't be shocked if we don't buy anyone. But if we did get someone, I think it might just be one player on loan.
I think that, as I said, my feeling is that it would be an attacking player. I don't even think we'll get a right back. I think that Wan-Bissaka will go, and I'm even more confident that Ethan Laird's going to come back now. As the days go on, and as the financial situation at United becomes more and more apparent, I really don't think we'll get a right back. I think best case scenario is that we get a striker. My only pushback is I don't want United not to get a striker or an attacking player in January, because when they go, it's just really difficult to do business in January. That is a lie. That is a lie. It's been proven that you can do business in January. You just have to be proactive, and you have to be engaging to do business in January. You have to be smart to do business in January. That's really the problem, is because Manchester United are not engaging. They're not proactive. They're not smart when it comes to business, and doing the work in January is too much, and it's too short of a period of time. They've only got 1 month as opposed to an entire summer to do business. That's the problem when it comes to January. Again, I do feel like there is possibly a deal there to be done. The Gakpo one, my concern is that the price has escalated too much, and PSV have seen what a World Cup he had, and that price has increased so much. And I do think it's starting to get out of Manchester United's price that they just even are available to pay at the moment, which is a problem. And the problem is now that's when you start going into this territory of, oh, what about Memphis Depay on a free transfer?
Could
Or
happen.
like you said, those kind of ones, I don't think now you can rule them out. And I don't know. I don't know what that looks like for United. I'm not sure. I'm not sure even I, Mina, can say that if we get Memphis Depay in January, I go, that's top 4 for us. I don't know, because I watched him play against Argentina in that game, and he was rubbish. He was terrible. And Wout Weghorst and Luke de Jong came on, and they were far better in that game. But it's just one game.
Yeah, and I feel like at the World Cup, like some players have had those kind of games where they have a good one game, next game they're not that influential. Would I be mad about a Memphis on 6-month loan? We need like, we're in dire need of a striker. Like, it's really sad, but we really need a striker, because God forbid something, Martial, he's got injury problems. Hopefully this break has actually done him well in terms of getting his fitness up. But if Martial gets injured or Rashford gets injured, we are doomed up top. Do I have to see Alanga playing as a false 9 again? Do I have to see Bruno Fernandes playing as a false 9 again? I can't do that. I can't. So we have to get a striker. I think even if it's a 6-month loan, somebody that can provide quality up front and can give us that depth up front. But all I know, we're just one injury away from it. Like, we could go into January and be like, okay, no signings, but come summer, we're going to splash. And we're going to not just splash money, but we're going to buy quality players that fit the structure of Ten Hag's plan and whatnot. But if any of our players pick up an injury at any point, we're doomed.
And let's be honest, obviously we want Martial to succeed, and hopefully this break has been good for him. He has played some games, but one, chances are he's going to get injured again, because you can't ignore history. And two, he can't play any game anyway, even if he doesn't get injured. I mean, if we play him in every game, you're really running the risk, because let's face it, we know that his body can't keep up with this kind of schedule that we've got for the remainder of the season. So we do need that support there. But who that person is, I don't know. I really don't. I don't know. One person that could be, though, speaking of those options, is Joao Felix. Now, this is an interesting one, because we got no money. How are we going to buy Joao Felix for 100 million euros? Well, according to this list, this was from Rob Dawson from ESPN yesterday. He said about these names that we've been linked with, and possibly this could be more in the summer. But Gonzalo Ramos is amongst several players being followed by Manchester United, including Cody Gakpo, Rafael Leao, and Joao Felix. Although there remains a view at United that January is not the ideal time to bring in new players, which I said annoys me considerably. United have been alerted to Joao Felix's availability in January, although Atletico Madrid's valuation of around 100 million euros is problematic. However, there is an option to this. One option being considered is presenting Atletico Madrid with a loan offer for Joao Felix in January, with an obligation to make the move permanent at the end of the season. How realistic and feasible do you think that is?
I think that is feasible, but I don't want to be that person. I like Joao Felix. I like him a lot. I think he's very good, very technical, very gifted. Is he the answer to our striker problems? That's what I want to know. Because I have the same questions. I have the same questions about Gakpo too. I don't know if they're the answer to the problem that we have. And I said this before, that if we are gonna buy a forward, I think we should buy an out 9, someone that is just a striker. I don't want someone that can play as a winger, can play as a 10, can play as this and play. I just want a striker, because we've got enough of those players on the left and the right. You don't want another player competing for that. So is Joao Felix that? I'm not too sure. I don't recall ever see. I do remember seeing him play as a false 9 at Atletico. I'm not sure. I could be wrong, but Gakpo and Felix to me are similar players in terms of what they offer and the positions that they play. They're different in terms of their technical ability, but in terms of where they play is quite similar. And Joao Felix is, out of the two, I would take Joao Felix. But imagine, we get him, hypothetically, imagine we get him on a 6-month loan. He doesn't perform, and there's obligation to buy him.
Obligation.
And now we're stuck to buy him. I know he's been linked to quite a few teams in the Premier League. He's been linked to obviously Arsenal. He's been linked to Villa. He's been linked to Newcastle. And I do think out of those teams, United probably do look attractive to him because of the name of the club. Is the club still has a bit of pull in terms of the name and the title, but realistically, are we going to get him on loan? I think it would work in terms of having a 6-month loan and then an option to buy would be better than an obligation to buy, because if that loan spell doesn't work out and now you're stuck with spending 100 million on a player that doesn't fit into the club and just didn't impress for 6 months, then we're kind of screwed.
My feeling is with the Joao Felix one is that could be a case of going for names over needs. Essentially, what do we need in January? We need someone that can play up front. And whilst Joao Felix can play up front, is that even where he'd play if he came in? That's the thing. At least with Cody Gakpo, you could say, well, he probably would play up front and he could do that job. Joao Felix coming in, I'd be like, I don't know if he's going to play up front. I mean, I suppose it could work and I suppose it is feasible. And, the best case scenario is that he does come in, he plays well. That obligation does happen in the summer. In the summer, because we've got new owners, we get Victor Osimhen or whatever. And then suddenly you've got a squad that's got Osimhen, Felix, Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, Anthony, Alejandro Garnacho, and an improved Jadon Sancho. And then suddenly you go, oh, look at all these attacking players we've got. But, that's rose-tinted glasses. And you worry because you look at that and go, there are red flags because we've done those kind of deals in the past. Not so much obligation to buy stuff, but we've gone for names over needs before, and it's kind of bit us in the backside a bit. So my concern is that I do feel like that kind of deal, that sort of, we can't really spend in January. We can get Joao Felix on loan though, and then come the summer, we could get him in. And from the Glazer point of view, they'd be like, well, that's the other owner's problem, as well. We didn't care about that. So I don't know. My feeling is that might be tempting for United. Clearly, all is not well with him at Atletico Madrid. He wants out, clearly, because he's being shopped around, and it's not the first time we've heard these kind of reports. It would be interesting to know if another team in January would be willing to spend 100 million euros on Joao Felix. I'm not sure if they would. So I don't know. I would watch that space with Joao Felix. I would not be shocked.
I would be shocked because I'm hoping. Yeah, I would be shocked because I'm hoping that with the direction that the club is going in terms of the sell and everything, Richard Arnold and whoever's in charge doesn't do anything out of, reasonable behavior. And I do hope that, I think when Ten Hag has talked about the kind of striker he wants, and when he talks about the kind of striker he wants to turn Rashford into, and, when he praises Martial for what he does as a 9, it kind of gives me the idea of the kind of striker that Ten Hag wants. And I don't see that in Joao Felix. I don't see that. Maybe I could be wrong, but I don't see that in Joao Felix. He is a great player, like I said this before. He's a top player. But I would be shocked if United went for him for a loan option. When has a loan option ever worked?
If we got him in January, do you think we'd get the top 4?
I couldn't say.
That's a big fence you're sitting on there, Mina.
Yeah, I'm sitting on. And you know what? Push me off because I'm sitting on the fence. Because I genuinely don't know the way that the season has panned out. At the beginning of the season, after those 2 losses, if you asked me if top 4 was a possibility, I would have been like, absolutely not. But now, the way that United have been playing, I think that we could get top 4. But then you have to look at the quality of like the other teams in the top 4. Forget the top 6. Like, we've got Newcastle sitting in 3rd. Yeah. We've got Newcastle sitting.
Who knows what they're going to do in January, by the way, as well.
Not only that, who knows what they're going to do in January, number 1. Number 2, most of their players, barely any of their players has gone to the World Cup.
Yeah, true.
So their players are going to be well rested. We've got a run of games from basically the 21st, which is the EFL Cup, but we've got a run of games. We've got a Premier League game every 4 or 5 days. Like literally every 4 or 5 days we've got. And if we don't have a striker, and I mean an out-and-out striker, if Martial's not fit, Rashford has made it clear that he does not like to play up top, but he tries his best. But if we do not have a striker come the rest of the season. I couldn't say if we would finish in the top 4 or not. But again, you said if we get Joao Felix. If we get Joao Felix, we could. I think we could finish in top 4.
It would certainly be a statement signing, I would think, and people would go, oh, And I think if you just said to Ericsson Hug, would you rather not have or have Joao Felix? You'd be like, of course I'd have him,
I
any
think
day
he
of the
would have
week.
anyone, yeah. I think there's certain players that he would be like, yeah, I'd have them.
Yeah, and that is one part that I do look at and I go, well, Joao Felix does appear to be an Eric Ten Hag player. You can see how Ten Hag would want to have him in his side, but to your point, we'd still be having this conversation between now and the summer of we really need a striker. Oh, was Joao Felix really the right option? And to your point, if it doesn't work out, you're going, that obligation to buy is looking quite big. It's quite steep. And it would be, you would think, 100 million euros. And that takes off the budget in the summer. But at the same time, that budget in the summer might be ginormous. So it might not matter. So that's when it goes back to, again, with the ownership, that we just don't know a lot about it. Finally, we've got to talk about the World Cup. The World Cup final is set, and it features Manchester United's 2 centre-backs. It's Varane versus Martinez. It's Mbappe versus Messi. It's France versus Argentina. Let's talk about the game last night. Of course, Morocco lost 2-0 against France. I thought they were quite unfortunate, Mina. Just a case of maybe a bit too much too far. Look, they've already made so much history in this tournament, first ever African side into the semi-final. They can still make history, becoming the first African side to finish third if they win the third place playoff against Croatia. But maybe just a bit like England, I suppose, had a few opportunities against France, but France, the quality, the clinicalness, it's just too much.
Yeah, I think they played better than I would say that they dominated the game more than England did against France. I think the England and France game was a bit open, but yesterday's game, it was quite different from Morocco because Morocco are used to just sitting back, defending, counter-attacking, whereas yesterday they had quite a bit of possession, and it was just really that final chance that kind of didn't work. I think they realized like probably 20-30 minutes into the game that they should be attacking the wings because Hernandez and Koundé were just there to be run at. They were there to, a few passes around them and suddenly they can't function. Credit to Konate. For me, he was the man of the match for France. Griezmann is having probably... It's crazy because if France win the World Cup and, Mbappe wins the Golden Boot, everyone's going to be talking about Mbappe, and rightly so. But nobody's going to be talking about Griezmann. I think Griezmann has been the game changer for France in this new role that he's playing for them, where I'm seeing him defending, I'm seeing him counter-attacking. The first goal obviously came from a Griezmann run where the defender just made a poor, I think, a bad decision to step out and he slipped, which is unlucky. Morocco, I think, can walk away from the World Cup. Quite unfortunate because they probably felt that they could have scored yesterday. And I think if they had scored, that guy, if El Yatir scored that overhead kick, it would have been a different story. The game could have been a different story. And I just think it was just in front of goal. They were just not clinical. Like you said, France, clinical in front of goal. 2 actually scrappy goals that they scored. The first one,
it was.
The first one was quite scrappy. It's funny because I think everyone that comes up against France, they're so focused on Mbappe that they seem to forget about the other players. And that's what happened with the first goal. I don't know if you watch it back, but you'll see that Mbappe had the ball in the box and about 6 players they just surrounded him like that. And as a result, it left Hernandez wide open. And the second one was just unlucky. It's a deflection. There's not much you can do about that. So Morocco can walk away from the World Cup, feeling like they've done something. And like you said, they could make history becoming the first ever African nation to finish third in a World Cup. And I hope that this sets the standard for African football, because if anybody watches football in the continent, you'll know that it's quite competitive. I know a lot of people don't watch AFCON. I know people just watch it for like certain teams, like if they want to watch Mo Salah or someone. But trust me, if you guys watch African football more, you will see how competitive it is, and seeing Morocco compete on a global stage like they did for the World Cup, it did not really surprise me. And I hope that it very much influences other federations in Africa to like invest in the grassroots football as well as, the facilities. But in terms of the World Cup, at least one United player is coming back with a medal.
Exactly. The two centre backs, one of them is going to come back with a World Cup winners medal. I think you're bang on about Morocco as well. I think they've got to be the template now. They've got to be the blueprint of, was it a decade ago? They sent out their template or their blueprint of what they wanted to achieve in the future, and they've invested. You look at the facilities they've generated. I think huge credit to the manager as well, because this was a completely fractured side 6 months ago. Came in August, and he's managed to reunite, got Ziyech out of retirement pretty much. So I think he did a fantastic job. And I think, I just think they're a bit unlucky. I think also as well, in the knockout games, in the last 16 game and in the quarterfinal games, they picked up more and more injuries. It felt like every key player, because they started a couple of those injury doubts last night, and then they all went off after like 45 minutes. I don't know why Seiss was on the pitch. He should have been playing, because he pulled his hamstring in the last 16. I couldn't believe he played the quarterfinal. I get it, but it nearly cost him a goal at one point, because when Olivier Giroud's outrunning you and outpacing you, there's a bit of a problem going on there. So I think that they were really, really unlucky. And again, my hope is now, especially with the next World Cup, having more African sides in, that, like I said, that this is the sort of glass ceiling being broken for African football. And I think it will be. I really do. As far as France also, there's a story this morning coming out. I don't know if you've seen this, that Karim Benzema is actually still technically in the France squad, and he is fit. He's fit. He's been training with his teammates in Madrid for the last 6 days. So there is a feeling and a possibility that Benzema could be named on the bench on Sunday. How wild would that be? So he gets injured. Remember, they did not replace him. Yeah. They did not replace him.
He's still part of the 26.
He's still registered. Yeah. So he could play. Could we see Benzema on the bench?
No, because I think Deschamps hates him. I saw in his press conference yesterday after the game, somebody asked about a journalist asked about this, and this was literally him. He was just like, that's literally his reaction. Like, someone was like to him, listen, or Benzema, we've heard that he's been training, and is it possible that he could make an appearance in the final? And he just sighed. He literally just sighed, and he just looked at the journalist. I don't think Deschamps likes Benzema. I saw a stat, and don't get me wrong, I love Benzema as a player. What he, especially like last season, his Ballon d'Or season, great striker. I saw a stat that said that Deschamps has made every final that he's made has been without Benzema. And every time Benzema has been in the squad for a tournament, they've got knocked out.
I saw that, yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, well, that might be onto something. And I remember Mbappe prior to the World Cup saying that he prefers to play with Giroud over Benzema. And I can't believe that he actually said that. Like, he came out and said it in an interview that he prefers to play with Giroud because he's unselfish, and he's just a different number 9 to Benzema. I would be so shocked. I would be very shocked, not only if he's on the bench, but I would be shocked if he even comes. Like, if he came on the bench, if he was on the bench, cool. But if he was to come on, I'd be even more shocked, because that's like, it's just. And then imagine they win, then he gets a medal for doing nothing. I've seen people do far worse, so it's all right.
John Terry, yeah. I mean, no disrespect to Benzema. Obviously, look, Ballon d'Or winner. Real Madrid legend. Was he second in the all-time Real Madrid top goal scorers behind Ronaldo? But it's not as if you're watching France and going, they're crying out for Karim Benzema to play. You don't get that. But at the same time, in a World Cup full of stories, could you imagine he doesn't play the entire tournament, comes on, imagine he scored the winner. Or France 1-0 down. And that's the only reason I suppose maybe you'd keep him on the bench or something like that. If you were 1-0 down, option, yeah. Last minute, you'd be like, bring on Benzema, see what happens. It would just be the wildest story.
Yeah, but one thing I wouldn't get, because I get the impression that Deschamps doesn't like him, but B, like, you've gone the entire tournament without him. So why mess up the structure of your team come the final? It's not like it's a game of two games where it's a leg, and a final is just one game. So you mess it up. I would be really shocked, because like even yesterday, like they took off Giroud and brought on Thuram and put him on the left and put Mbappe through the middle, and I think that caused problems for Morocco as well, because can we just talk about what Amrabat did to Mbappe? Because to me, that's probably one of my highlights of the entire World Cup, because I remember when Mbappe skipped past those three of them, he skipped past all three of them. Someone went in for a slide tackle. I saw Amrabat running, literally, like chasing him.
And he just went through
it. Literally, clamped him. That was to me the highlight of the game. But
And he was brilliant. Amrabat, this whole tournament has been incredible. Like they reckon like every club across Europe wants him now.
You know what?
He plays Fiorentina, and everyone's been saying he's been brilliant.
I said, I'm not being reactionary to the World Cup, but I said this the other day, with Fred's contract expiring in the summer, Azzedine Ounahi at Morocco is who we should get. Like, I genuinely think that, because when I watched him for Morocco during the World Cup, I was just like, yeah, I have to go back to watching Fred and McTominay. Like, I just watched this. And bear in mind, last year, 2021, he was playing in the 3rd division of the French league. He was in the 3rd division. Obviously, he's young, so he was like 20, 21 at the time. But Amrabat and Ounahi, for me, were probably, they will be in the team of the tournament, and I'll be shocked if they're not, and other people make it in over them. But I don't think France they're not crying out for Benzema, but he's a good asset to have on the bench. Like you said, if they need a goal, if they're 1-1, if they're losing, if they need a goal, at least they know that they can turn to a winner on the bench. But also, it's like, for him, it's like, how you've been injured. I just think it's shameless. I think it's a bit shameless on both ends. But I do think Deschamps has made it clear that he doesn't like Benzema, and there's something fizzling in that side between them two. But I would be shocked to see him named on the bench.
Super chat from VK says, just gutted Morocco didn't make it to the finals and win it. And also Tabislav, big up Tabislav, has been a member for 5 months. Appreciate 5 months support, one of the mods as well. Says, big up UV fam, love and peace to you all. Keep grinding, miss you all. Well, thank you very much, Tabislav. Big up to yourself. We've reached the end of the show. What an amazing show. But before we wrap things up, Mina, because I don't think we're going to be, you and I are going to be live before Sunday. Who's going to win it, Argentina or France?
I'm in a crossroad. You know, I would like Messi to win, because I think it would be a great way to cap off his career as a great footballer. I want, Varane to have 2 World Cups. I want Martinez to get his first. I don't know. I can't pick. I'm sitting on the fence again.
That fence is very firm. Yeah, I think France.
I think France is going to win, though. I think it's going to be a good game.
Yeah, my feeling, I think France might do it quite comfortably, actually. I think Argentina have Messi's on it at the moment, which is, I think, proper. But France have been playing counter-attacking football. And when Argentina have gone up against counter-attacking football so far in the tournament, they've sometimes not known what to do. So my feeling is that France will win it. But anything's possible. Anyway, guys, look, be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Remember, you can join the UV Members Club. Links to the video description. It's also the pinned comment in the live chat. You get your badges, your emojis. I don't know if you saw this, Mina. There is now a Mina emoji.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
there is a Mina emoji. So the members, you can put the emojis in the chat. There's new emojis there. There's the Mina emoji. There's a hopium emoji. There's a flip-flop emoji. All of these new emojis have come out right now. Also, we've got new members-only content. The latest episode of UV Raw has dropped. I've already seen the next 2. The 2 episodes have already been done. So be sure to join the members club. You can see all of that. Plus, I did a live exclusive members only Q&A yesterday as well. So did I put them in the chat right now? It doesn't come up on StreamYard, but you'll be able to see it in the YouTube stream.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out on YouTube.
The Mina emojis is there. Yes, the minions are in full force. Anyway, guys, look, we're out of it. We'll speak to you again very soon. Peace.